Welcome to the Hydro Performance Podcast, and today we're diving into the world of basketball and performance, exploring what it really takes to develop, coach, and elevate players at the highest of levels. And this episode is a pretty special one because we brought together an expert roundtable featuring three awesome basketball coaches and friends from across the globe. And between them, they have decades of experience working with national teams, NBA organizations, collegiate programs, and individual NBA athletes at the elite level. So, without further ado, Dave, Tyler, and Tom, welcome to the show. How are you guys?
Great.
Great, thanks.
Great, thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Guys, let's kick things off. Could you or would you mind each just giving a really quick introduction on yourselves and maybe sharing a little bit about your background, what you do, just before we jump into the discussion, and perhaps we'll go in that same order, Dave, Tyler, and Tom.
Great. Pleasure to be here. Happy to be on it, especially with Hydro, a company that I really appreciate and respect and utilize. Dave Snyder, I'm an athletic trainer in the U.S. I work in collegiate basketball. I've done that for 7 years now. Prior to that, I worked for 16 years in American football. I have a passion for recovery and for trying to mitigate risk or as many injuries as I can. As those of us that have grown in this, we tend to shy away from the discussion on injury prevention because that's really difficult to do, and people overuse that term. But I want to just help put my guys in the best position to be able to play long seasons and careers, and achieve the success that they hope to achieve.
I don't know if I can top that. My name's Tyler Lesher. I'm a private practice athletic trainer now. Been doing this for a whopping 4 or 5 months. Prior to that, I was at UCLA, head of basketball, athletic training for basketball for the men's basketball team for 4 years. Quick year at FAU working with the basketball team. And then prior to that, I was in the NBA for 5 years with the Cavs and the Hornets. Kind of like the same thing. I'm just all about the recovery and performance thing. Working with one athlete's a whole different specimen versus working with an entire team. It's a big eye-opening event for me. So it's been a fun little journey that I always wanted to do, and finally came to fruition.
Yeah, hi there, guys. I'm Tom Cresswell. I haven't just joined the wrong call. I'm not meant to be here talking about soccer. I'm going to be talking about basketball,
All right.
which we do also play over here in the UK, and that's why I've had to kind of come representing in my shirt, just so I'm identifiable as a British basketball nut. I'm the head of athlete health and performance for Great Britain basketball. I guess before that, the reason I'm here is, failed basketball player, desperate to still try and stay in the highest level of competition as possible. And I've had to do that by trying to become, I guess, the most effective physio or strength coach or system leader as I can. And I guess I'm here talking with you guys because BFR has been part of that story and using it to solve lots of different performance problems.
I guess you're all here together because I really respect you as coaches, and we all do at Hydro too. So honestly, it's a massive, massive pleasure to have each of you here, and it's great to call you friends as well. So let's dive straight in, gents. We're gonna have a few topics of discussion. We can go wherever we want with this. We can double click down. We can go on tangents. Let's keep it really informal. Let's just have a chat and bring our different expertise to the table, or particularly your expertise. I'm just here to be the face of Hydro, I guess, and not as important as you guys. So. Yeah, the first thing I wanted to dip into because it's something I have a particular interest within basketball, being a newbie and quite naive to the sport, but I've seen a lot of patellar tendonitis and just tendinopathies in basketballers, right? I've spoken to each of you about those in your teams and athletes respectively. So it feels kind of like this hidden limiter in performance with a lot of players. Perhaps they're just managing the pain and not really solving the pain. So with regards to BFR, do you think we have the opportunity here perhaps to shift that approach as opposed to just putting a plaster on it and focus maybe on the treatment of symptoms using things like BFR? I mean, what's your opinions on that? We'll start, Tyler, if you want to have a pop at that question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, was it anterior knee pain or generalized knee pain is one of the most like I say like diagnosed conditions, especially in America and with basketball players. It's a rabbit hole of a problem, we can definitely use BFR as a solution for it. But like when you look at the actual like problem and get into the intricacies of it, like is it a what's the term? Like a hidden but like glaring obvious aspect is the fact that most of these kids that have patellar tendonitis lack big toe extension, they lack dorsiflexion of the ankle, they lack internal rotation of the tibia, and they lack internal rotation of the hip, which all coincides with the fact that now all that stress going up the kinetic chain and what should be going back down the kinetic chain is manifesting in that patellar tendon. And on top of the fact that usually, and this is just my opinion as well, our kids just aren't strong enough, right? Like they can't handle the forces that they are pushing out and exhibiting on the court, and even just like the day-to-day stuff. Now, that is all. I mean, you could teach a semester of classes on each of those individual things that I just brought up, but the fact that now we can take something like BFR, unload them, right? Because we're able to reduce joint tendon stress with lighter loads that get that compressive and shear force on the joints, the ligaments, and the tendon is so much lower with BFR. It's just such a useful approach for rehab to where like we can get that metabolic expression, growth hormone and everything to really have them uh, recover as they go throughout their rehab process. It's just it's like you have to fix all of those things, but then like as Dave knows, especially working with crazy American basketball coaches, you have to keep them on the court no matter what. And this is like, I don't want to call it a band-aid because it's not, but it's a great way to help produce results and then decrease pain to keep them on the court at the same time. And that's one aspect that like BFR like checks every box all the way through and through. It's like it's not a band-aid, but it's a band-aid to get you on the court, and then it helps the progression of rehab like 100-fold.
That was an awesome answer, mate, and thank you as well for going into a little bit of the mechanisms there too. It's useful for people listening. And it's, yeah, it was potentially a leading question, but I definitely acknowledge that BFR is not the one-stop shop for everything, right? It's an incredibly effective tool to help in many different ways.
It helps. It
There's a lot of
helps.
problems, right? Yeah, of course. There's a lot of problems that you need to attack there. Now, Dave, Tyler just mentioned some crazy coaches. Have you got any stories from coaching your collegiate athletes?
Well, I think, I first off, I agree with everything that Tyler said, and I think that probably you're not going to get a lot of disagreements in any of us today because you brought us on here for a reason, and we all try to be practical and like-minded and science-based. Totally agree with everything Tyler said, and with patellofemoral issues, so let's say patellar tendon, quad tendon, these things like the patellofemoral issues, the source of it is exactly what Tyler said, and it's a long standing problem, especially for undertrained athletes, or if you want to say like the training age, what is their training age? How well coached have they been physically, not on the court, but in the weight room? Um, and then what kind of interventions are they accustomed to by folks like us? So I'll say crazy coaches, let's say crazy high achievers. All the coaches that we've dealt with have been the best in the business, which is why they are at such high levels. So they have a personal drive that we all have as well. We all want to be the best in our profession. So the expectations are high. So a lot of times with patellofemoral issues, you know, there's not as much time loss because we're helping them navigate the process while they're continuing to play. So and that is an expectation. And obviously when there's a time where an athlete needs to be shut down, we do it, depending on the scenario. But what this allows us to do, what BFR allows us to do, it allows us, just like Tyler said, is to do it in a less of a load, in an unloaded way, however you want to do it. But we're able to do this and train without the same sort of negative from maybe heavy loads that you might try to do, heavy loaded eccentrics to help the tendons or things like that. We can do that without the same load that carries with it a soreness factor, a latency period of decreased performance. And with this, we don't necessarily see that. So it allows us to do these things to really try to correct some wrongs while they're still playing, which is really, really hard to do. So that's what leads us to things like this, to be able to do that, to help the athlete stay engaged, to decrease time loss, because that, in the goal of the athlete is to not have a lot of time loss because they're held accountable for that. If their goal is to go play at the next level, if they're at the next level, their goal is to make it to the next contract. So, we're trying to help these athletes achieve their lifelong goal of playing. And if we can do that without them missing time, then that's fantastic. So, it's we're all trying to be high achievers and working with high achievers.
Absolutely. And I think just kind of looking at a basketball calendar as well, it's incredibly packed. The load through the tissues and the joints that these athletes are experiencing is bound to lead to concerns and issues like this, right? So, Tom, like looking at optimizing recovery and readiness for your next game, you've got such a cadence of games. Do you think BFR can play a bigger part than what it already is? You three are already using BFR incredibly well. But in terms of the bigger picture, do you think BFR could be a part in promoting that athlete readiness as it pertains specifically to recovery opportunities that may not have been used beforehand?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Like for me, one of the great strengths of using BFR has been in its flexibility of how you use it and how you apply it. Um, so like the way for us, I don't know if it redefines the way we approach to readiness, but it gives us lots of routes towards readiness. Like the burden of performance is biopsychosocial. We see so much positive impact when our recovery methodologies account for athlete preference. Um, and because BFR is kind of easy to use, so it's got like a low barrier to its application. Um, it's fantastic for pairing with other easy applicable um, methods. And then also like because it's easy, like the athlete wants to do it, so the agency and the efficacy is kind of there. And then because they think they've basically come up with their own plan and achieved it themselves, they're even more happy with themselves. So I'm really happy leveraging like the athlete preference kind of well-being benefit off the back of all the kind of like the physiological cascades that we're sort of making happen. Um, that's a little bit puppet master of me, doesn't it? I think that makes me sound a bit Machiavelli or something. But yeah, like that for us is how we've definitely found like the BFR's been so useful. Is like we love that Swiss Army knife kind of style of application.
I think that subjectivity is incredibly important as well for the athlete to self-lead, be autonomous in their decision making. You've guided them towards that decision, of course, and provided the information. But if they enjoy doing something and they understand why they're doing it, they're going to do it, right? So I guess, yeah, Tyler, what have you seen with your athletes previously at UCLA and perhaps with your individual athlete now, maybe? How have you seen it deployed for recovery, or did you have any successes with using BFR in recovery at all?
Yeah, especially now it's well for recovery and performance benefits, even just like general activation. Like my athlete was going to we had training camp up in Vancouver and I don't know why, but the gym was 40 minutes away and I had him like hop in the we would treat for like an hour, hour and a half. And then it's like, well, there's no point to go through like all this like activation, just go sit on a bus for 40 minutes. So I gave him a pair of hydros and I was like 5 minutes strap on, 5 minutes off, like and just get that like blood flow and like get that like good like muscle pump, increase the circulation. Um, so just from a prep aspect, I mean it's huge for that. Now, immediately following, he's back on the bus for that same 40-minute ride back. He's gassed. I'm like, put the shorts back on. Same thing, 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and just get that again. Just get everything pumping. Get that blood flow moving. So where we've taken it to the next level, and I don't know, people have always seen this on Instagram or whatever, but like and I did this at UCLA a lot, having my guys in the shorts and now going dunking in the cold tub and really trying to express, um, getting that growth hormone response that we get from cold water immersion, getting it from the BFR, and only going in there for like 5 minutes. I did it with contrast even a couple times, just having to go back and forth. It's like, hey, one round you're going to be strapped up, the next round unstrap. Do a couple rounds of that, and I don't know what the science says, but I know what their subjective response was that they left feeling, like light years better, especially after intense bouts of workouts. So, I mean, overall, it's just I've used this example before, and I want credit for this if you used it, but it's literally taking like the Apple tethered AirPods or headphones and then going to AirPods to where like now you can do so much more because you're not attached to a machine with cords hanging from you, to where like it just makes recovery easier. It makes performance easier because you're just not attached to a machine that's beeping and probably broken and whatever. So especially hydro, like it opens the door phenomenally for all of the everything that we're trying to achieve.
Am I expecting a cease and desist if you hear me use that on a podcast?
I told you like a couple years ago that you could use it. I just said I wanted credit for it.
Yeah, good man. I'll put it in the footnotes for sure. And Dave, I know you've been using it pretty extensively at the Baylor basketball team too. Is there any kind of unique ways or particular case studies of you using the recovery BFR options of your athletes?
Yeah, and I was a little bit jealous because Tom used the term first. They are like a Swiss Army knife, and I guess if you're in Switzerland, a knife. But you know, we use them in everything, and there's not much equipment that we have that it can be used in almost every facet of what we do, whether it be on the court, pre-ischemic conditioning, in a team setting or an individual setting. Because in basketball, it's different than some other sports to where we have a lot of individualized work, but we also have a lot of teamwork. Is it used in warm up prior to a lifting session, whether it be individual or a group? And these are all performance based. And then it's like, okay, well, we can use them in recovery. Tyler made a great example of utilizing the time that they were stuck on a bus. It's like you can maximize time everywhere you're at, even if you're at an airport, if you're on an airplane, if you have a delay, which we're all seeing these days, you can use it anywhere. I was talking with Chase yesterday. It's because, and I'm going to put something out, but one of the main game changers, obviously, is we can use it in the water and not just the hot tub and the cold tub, but if you have a therapy pool. I'm a big believer in like hip mobility. So sometimes, as I have a guy that's waiting to get in the pool, we'll let him do some hip work, some resisted hip swings with the hydro pressure of swinging through the water. You get a little bit of opened up hip, and then you can go and do your contrast bath or whatnot. I've got a treadmill in the pool. He can get in there and do a treadmill sprint cycle, tethered or untethered, or strapped or unstrapped, and go through that. And now, even if you look at the anti-gravity treadmills, there's various brands out there. I don't want to plug anybody, but you wear them in that. Because there's not a sensor, there's not a Bluetooth block, there's not a hose, there's not these things that potentially would get in the way of doing that. So you could even using it in that, and that's for me is like, being a small staffed group like college athletic trainers are for basketball is typically there's one, maybe two if you're lucky. So everything is about is it useful? Is it practical? Can it be used in multiple spaces? Does it travel well? And then, obviously, lastly, it would be the buy-in. But it's our job to educate and teach our athletes to see the benefits of these things. And that you've achieved that once they start requesting it, and then it's easy. And you show them the benefit, you discuss it, then they feel it, like Tyler was saying, and once they feel that benefit, you got it. You've successfully educated them and primed them to be able to use this type of technology, and then they reap the benefits of it. And then we all do because they feel better, and then they play better. So, Yeah, I've used this in every facet that you could think of, personally as well. And most of the products that I use, like I believe in, and I'm willing to use it myself because I try to stay active as an old man that I am, and it helps me too. So yeah, love it. There it is, Tom. I see it.
Our bike's on the other side of the room. Yeah, absolutely. We're using this stuff, experimenting with ourselves before we make others do it for sure. Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons as well that you three have been fantastic for us and why we're here talking today because you use it yourself. You authentically use the product because you understand it, you advocate, and you understand how to apply it with your athletes because you've understood the nuances of the product itself. Now, Dave, you mentioned something quite critical. I guess that maybe it's a basketball thing. Again, I'm quite naive to this sport. You said it's a small staff, and that would be the same in NBA and collegiate. Is that correct? Typically compared to like a football staff. Is that safe to say, or is it?
Well, I would say Tyler has the NBA experience, but typically in college athletics from basketball, you have one athletic trainer or the equivalent of a physio or something like that. If you're lucky, maybe two, or one in a part-time, but typically smaller. And professional sports are larger staffs, and obviously, yes, in American football, the staffs are significantly larger, but their roster is larger as well.
True, I guess so, particularly as it pertains to college then, but also Tom, I know that you're kind of, a small staff too. What do you look for, I guess, in protocols or products as a small staff so that you can implement things? Because obviously you can't do 10 things at once, right? So what are the elements of things that you look for?
The first thing that jumped in my head when you said that is don't give me something else that needs to be put on charge.
Yeah, yeah,
Because, there are only so many plugs in everyone's hotel room. And when you've got a small staff and you're sharing international travel adapters, yeah, sometimes these problems are real. I mean, I'm sorry to kind of just go jokey with my immediate response to that, but it's genuinely helpful that hydro shorts. I know we're talking about kind of BFR more broadly, but or that the BFR products we're going to more easily adopt are again the ones that just have like a higher ease of use. Um, I'm sure the amount of product development that have gone into the shorts is absolutely immense, but it's the simplicity of them. Whack them on and strap yourself in, and off you go. It's seamless, and because of that we're always gonna defer more naturally to products like that. So I guess that's kind of yeah, it becomes more obvious, more intuitive with small staffs because you're just trying to do the most you can with a limited amount of time.
Is there like a prerequisite checkbox or anything then to tick off a product like the amount of research or your understanding around the science of it? What are your checklists before you would
I
explore something?
mean, with any, this really comes to me as like a budget holder. That's probably the angle I answer this question from is I look at the problem I'm trying to solve. I look at it might not be technology. Maybe it is. I need another staff member. But I look at the ways I'm going to try and solve that problem, where I'm going to spend that money. Um, and then when I think it's going to help me solve a problem, is it going to move a problem, or is it going to give me 50% of that problem, or is it going to do 100% of the problem? So you're constantly looking for the most efficient way of doing something, and sometimes the fact that something budgetarily comes in as really affordable, again, that's going to help me get it kind of over the line.
I'd like to elaborate on something Tom just said because he brought up an incredible point with it is, well, 2 points really. One, it's all about like when you have a staff of one, in the most cases, like we are, max two, hands-on versus hands-off time efficiency is everything. So the ability to be like you said, here's the shorts, strap them up, go do your thing, see you, in 10, 15 minutes while your hands are doing soft tissue work, whatever it might be, working with some type of modality. It's the fact that you don't have to continuously be coaching it, which is incredibly huge. It's almost like it's one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of like sled pushes. You don't have to coach it. You just like go from point A to point B and push that. Like, and you can't cheat it as well. Same thing if an athlete has the BFR shorts on, just strap them up. I don't care if you piss off for 5 minutes and you're just walking. like as long as you're strapped up, you're gonna get the benefit of it.
I
So
mean,
I
don't get me
don't
wrong,
have
I do care. Don't get me wrong, I do
to.
care.
Right, yeah.
And I'm sure at some point we've written a protocol that we're all meant to be adhering to, but yeah, there's the contraindications to them just putting it on and off they go appears pretty low. And we've all got the players that put them on when they got on the bus and then
Hmm.
took them off when they got off the bus 6 hours later. So we've probably all done that.
Yeah,
At least we know they're okay. Um,
That's where
absolutely.
pre-calibration comes in, gents. So
okay.
I'm not here to sell Hydro today. It's a Hydro podcast, but
But
the
can
whole
I ask
point.
an autonomy question though on that? Because like the beauty of that, like sometimes autonomy is like a blessing and a curse. And this is maybe such a simple question, but I need to ask practitioners with this much experience.
Mhm.
Do you just give the shorts out and say bring them to next practice, or are you taking them back in and washing them in order and handing them back out yourself? Are those shorts your responsibility, or are you giving them out?
I will say it depends on the person. If I have a guy that is what I would consider more of a grown up, then I'm perfectly okay with letting them walk away with them and bringing them back, and they bring them back in the same condition that they left in the fact that their functionality. I mean, they launder them. I'm totally good with it. Just like if I were to lend out a different type of piece of equipment, and then if maybe they're not of that caliber yet, and I've not fully indoctrinated them into the process, then I will do that myself just to ensure that the lifespan of the shorts is maximized. Sorry, Tyler.
Yeah, no, I very similar answer. When I was at UCLA, it was pretty much if you were a junior or senior and like you were a guy that I could trust because you had some wits behind you that I could be like, hey, here's the shorts, wash them, don't dry them. Because a lot of guys, here's really where it comes in. A lot of guys want to come back to the gym at 8 p.m. I'm not coming back and going through a bunch of PAP work or anything like that just so they can get shots up and get extra work. So it's like, here's the shorts. All right, on the whiteboard, like, hey, look, here's the circuit I want you to go through in the shirts or the short. Run through this, so now you're warmed up, you're prepped, and go on the court. Some guys, I'll just leave the shorts on my desk and be like, look, go through your warm up, bring them back. You know, just make sure they're on my desk when I get to my office at 6 a.m. Now, then there's other times where it's like, dude, I ain't giving you shorts no matter what. Like, I don't care what. Like, just go out there and like warm up yourself because like I know that if I give you these shorts, I'm not seeing them again. And that's, we all have those athletes, it's just, it is what it is. Now it's great. I'm lucky. I work with one athlete. I give him the shorts. Whatever you do, don't dry them. That's all I care about. Let them air dry.
Mm.
And just it's great because he's always has them, and it's easy to work with from that aspect. But that's always the biggest thing is like I could leave them with guys because I would say if you have 15 players on your team, 12 to 13 are coming back to shoot at night and not just shoot, but like go through like a pretty intense workout. Well, if that's the case, they need to be just as prepped for that as they would for like a practice or an individual. So that's where the shorts come in. They're very handy for that.
That's great. I got the standard S&C answer of it depends, but no, thanks, guys.
That's where we live.
All
Everything is
right. Everything depends.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Warren. Back to you,
No,
mate.
no, no. This is great, guys. Please just speak amongst yourselves. It's a pleasure to hear you talk. I do have one question though, quickly. So you said some of the athletes come back at perhaps 8 p.m. to shoot some hoops. Would you ever recommend using the shorts while doing an exercise like that, or have you used it in that way?
Absolutely. I've had my guys. We'll just say from like a general warm up, I like strapping on and getting on like an assault bike. That's might be one of the greatest warm ups you can do. Two, um, what I like doing is having them in the shorts and going through like I don't want to say layup drills, but like early on rehab work because that compression and it really changes their thought process to where like just say like they're coming back from an ankle injury. They're not thinking about their injury because they're thinking about the compression from the straps more than anything. It's
Yeah.
almost like retraining motor control patterns where like there's times where like I'll have a band on someone's arms and just having them look left or right. It's like it tricks the brain into thinking that It's worried about the band and it's not worried about how much more range of motion the neck is getting from looking left to right. So it's a very similar concept, I think, to where like I'll have guys, yeah, strap up 2 to 3 minutes. Hey, let's go through our ball handling drills to where they're in a deep squat position. They're moving forward, backwards, lateral, all sorts of ways, and they're just not worried about the injury that they're having because they're so focused on like how intense the pressure is. And then, obviously we all know how it feels when you unstrap, you get that like whole like sigh of relief pretty much, right? And again, it's just the same thing. Like they can keep going through things. They feel more springy. They're able to get into deeper positions that they're not that they haven't been able to. So it's an incredible like yeah, strap them up. Hey, we're going to go through like a court workout. Um, Again, I don't know the science behind it. I'm sure there's a point of too much, but I think it's great for like the first 10, 15 minutes of kind of going like, let's strap up for this, unstrap, strap up for this, unstrap, and just kind of riding that wave. And I've seen it a lot with my athlete. We do it quite a bit. As soon as we get on the court, it's like these are the things we're going to do, and it's helped his recovery process a lot.
Class. Dave, I don't know if you've seen anything similar with your guys too.
Yeah, like I said, we're all pretty like-minded, so you're not going to hear a lot of different answers. But yeah, I have no issues with my guys putting them on for if they were to go get extra shots up or get an individual workout or something like that. And a lot of that goes into, still as we continue to educate our players, as we continue to trust them and what they're doing, and let them know the benefits and the reasons why they're doing it, and then we'll increase buy-in. And so, and in the world of pro athletics sees guys come and go at a frequent basis depending on the scenario because of things like that. In college, it's even that much more rampant now. So with that, I feel like we have to do a better job of educating the athletes in a shorter amount of time. So, we'll have people come in and they say, "Hey, I want to do this, this, and this." And then I have to kind of in a polite and clever way to try to maybe steer them away from that because maybe that really isn't what's best. So I always try to, begin sort of their education here as it relates to like this is why we're going to do things. These are the benefits of why we're going to do it, and we're going to be systematic in it. In a corrective exercise specialist type of way is like, we're going to inhibit what needs inhibiting, we're going to lengthen, we're going to activate, we're going to integrate. So if they were to come in and do a individual workout, I'm going to be like, for days they would just come in and they would just shoot and then they would just start going and no proper warm up or no proper uh, uh, just mobility session or anything that they might need if they're going to ramp up their activity levels that to a higher level. So I always say is like if it's just you and somebody that's going to rebound for you, or if it's just you and a teammate or whatever, you need to do some level of dynamic warm up. You've had a long day, like all of our sports, is that we go all year round. So there's a level of wear and tear that is just there. So we all need to warm up, whether you're 18 or 45. So I tell them is like at the very least, put them on, do your dynamic warm up, then unstrap and then leave them on. You can do it during the cool down. But just that simple little thing, because we do so much in routine that they know what our dynamic warm up is. We don't have to teach them that because it's ingrained in them. So just for that 5 to 10 minutes of a warm up and stretch and then movement based series, be strapped in. You feel that compression, you feel that preparation. The joints and the muscles are better prepared, and then you unstrap. You feel that warm rush, and then you have a better session, and then you're stacking wins, right? So that's kind of the process of which I go and try to teach these guys as they go and do these things, and then I have less concern about them doing it on their own.
Yeah, it's fast becoming my favorite way to use blood flow restriction, like IPC before a session, because you really, really do see a difference in performance, whether that's kind of, endurance capacity or even strength power, or RPEs seem to be lower for same given
Yep.
workloads. It's really, really cool. So it's great to hear you using it in that way. Now, another way I'd like to explore, and I don't know if you guys have tried this yet, perhaps you have, but I know in basketball particularly, you do a post-game lift. It's very common to lift after a game, right? Now, that's obviously because of the quick turnaround between games. You need to dose them with some strength power so that they can maintain throughout the season. Would you ever consider throwing some BFR in there as well as, or instead of, or as a combination to potentially lower the load on the tissues and the joints, but still get a stimulus.
Yeah, no, I have with some of the guys at UCLA. I haven't had a chance yet with my current guy, but um following the game, what I really like sometimes is doing like heavy, like, trap bar deadlift, something like that, 4 sets of two, like really kind of get that spike in hormonal release. But then going shorts and like heavy like isometrics with the shorts on. Like a yielding isometric split stance, something like that. Because we know isometrics are anti-inflammatory in nature, can't really hurt yourself. It's not going to like do any more damage with them. And yeah, getting into some like those deeper positions because they're so juiced up from the game and like neurologically firing on every level to where like let's get them into like some of these like deeper ranges of motion and everything now that they're starting to like come down from that and then add the BFR on top of it and just kind of really hit those positions. So that's one area that I've played around with for sure.
Yeah, it kind of seems a logical addition, but it's in its infancy at the moment. So I'm really keen to speak to more coaches about it and see if they're willing to experiment. But yeah,
Yeah.
Tom, have you done anything like that with your guys or girls?
Yeah, we definitely, so try to, I mean, we're all trying to consolidate the sorts of stresses we're putting on our athletes so that then we get the maximum amount of time for the recovery and regen and adaptation from it, right? So let's in that game day scenario post game, hopefully we're all trying to individualize the next bit of work based on the work that's just been done. So you'll change what you do for your high kind of high minute players versus your low minute players, and definitely, yeah, we integrate BFR kind of along that like minutes played continuum in different ways and stuff. Likewise, pre sessions on basically every session, there is an individualized prep window for players that have got their kind of individual programs and plans. And we've definitely gone from kind of playing around to then also like formalizing and validating uh, is what we're doing kind of working. And we kind of definitely went through that process with some Hydro kind of base research this summer, trying to like we have those players that kind of it BFI is really well liked, and it shows that it's effective. Then we have the ones that really like it, but it seems less effective. Then we got the ones that kind of don't like it and it's not effective. And then the real head scratchers, the ones that don't like it, but shows that it's really effective. We kind of don't really know what to do with that group of players. But but yeah, absolutely. We kind of pre post we're trying to use like apply BFR in the way that we think is going to continue to leverage or like max out the kind of stress we can apply on a given day. That like we'll all be doing. We're trying to make our big days bigger, our little days kind of more little and stuff like that. So and BFR seems great at that.
You raise a really important and cool point there about kind of validating processes before integrating it fully. Is that something you guys have implemented in your careers? And I guess with regards to this, did you do any of that, or was it more borrow trust off the reams and reams of literature that exists? Or how did you guys approach that when integrating BFR, Dave or Tyler?
I just spoke with you, honestly. I wasn't diving through the literature like that.
Fair.
Well, I've had experience with like probably everyone else is like BFR when it kind of hit mainstream for us maybe for me it was roughly 2017 I want to say so dating back so have experience with it so I believe in it and its efficacy. There's obviously tons of literature out there, so it didn't take much buy-in to want to dive further in with this and then its utility. um, so we all want to be evidence-based, right? That is the thing. We want to do evidence-based practice, but also there's a level of anecdotal evidence that we rely on as well. And then we merge the two. So the evidence was there. Now I wanted to get the anecdotal evidence with these. And it didn't take much. Like Tom said, for most parts, we like to try things that we promote to our players because we don't want to put our name and reputation on the line for something that we feel isn't going to work. Um, or sometimes if it's an uncomfortable treatment, players are going to be less apt to want to do it. So if we can at least prepare them very accurately as to what they will expect and then sell the winning points of it, they'll be more, willing to try it because they'll see the plus side. Um, so I find that with all people, athletes especially, is they just don't like surprises. So if we can tell them what they're going to expect, so that's where the anecdotal evidence comes in, and then you win the locker room when they tell their teammates, "Oh, you got to try those. I feel great," and that's what I'm getting. So I had the evidence. And then, I had the anecdotal experience, so it's an easier way to integrate it into our practice. And then the athletes, when they're selling it, my job's done. I just need to make sure they're clean and we stay in them.
Do you also have to that like Dave, listening to you talk, I'm really hearing that phrase, that quote that's like when you really know the rules, you can break them like an artist. And listening to you is kind of a lot like that. And I was thinking about like the question we started on with how is patella tendinopathy like the hidden limiter in basketball? I was thinking sometimes actually I have to like create a problem to then make everyone see it. So then I can go in and solve it when I already kind of have the art. And I was thinking about that when you're trying to take the locker room along with you. I was thinking of like that patella tendinopathy scenario because I felt like I had to go through a process of showing everyone well what the problem that patella tendinopathy is causing. Um, so, I kind of had to like try and give people visualizations to, demonstrate, you really want to see this and this hustle play within your game model. All right. Okay. When our level of patella tendinopathy symptom is high, we're pressing less, we have less deflections, less offensive rebounds. And I was kind of able to marry up uh, that kind of patella tendinopathy thing with almost create the problem to then help me kind of go in and solve it. I reckon, like as well as leveraging just the really like the veteran in the room when you're like, oh, he started using them, so now everyone else is as well. Like I felt like I had to sometimes go and cause problems rather than rather than be solving them all the time.
You're absolutely right. And I think one of the tough things for us sometimes is like we have to get buy-in from a lot of different people. And you talked about finances too, because we all have our algorithm on process and it all is specific to whatever the issue is. And so if you overcome the financial hurdle, then you move on to the next. That's a benefit of the hydros because like finances are not an issue with these. So you're past that and now you're on buy-in and things like that. But yeah, and I'll sell this too, depending on the injury or the issue, because I'm careful how I word it sometimes. But I find that like especially a patellofemoral issue or things like that is like it's a reactive issue, right? As in it doesn't hurt as bad if you're obviously it does to an extent, but if you know your offense versus defense, right? If you know where you're about to move, you're prepared. So you're making a better timed movement because your central nervous system knows you're in control and you're about to go do this. But if you're playing defense, you get exposed because you have to react. And then if you react, your central nervous system has to, react even quicker to the guy in front of you and so on and so forth and things like that. So that's where I'll sell various things like this too, is like, oh, well, offense is this. Like, yeah, no, we also need to play defense. So if this guy's defensive liability, then we have an issue. So here's another reason why we need to do X, Y, Z to where we can feel good and we can be strong enough and our tendons are reactive enough to be able to withstand the reaction. So that's why even in like the individual drills, what we talked about, I was like, has it ever dawned on anyone that all individual drills are offense? Because everyone wants to shoot the ball. Like everyone wants to score and shoot and whatever, but nobody's guarding when they're doing individual drills. So I was like, hey, you know what? We need to integrate defensive drills when we do individuals at night because that also is part of the game. So, it's just trying to hit all the different factors that come into play to where, I call it like an accusation on it. It's like, I didn't coin that term, but
I'm writing that down now.
prepare them for everything. It's like you prepare them for all the different scenarios. So when the question comes up, you've already at least discussed it once to where they draw back on that. And then it's like, hey, we talked about this. So um,
Actually, I remember when we first met Tyler in December 23, a couple of years ago, you had what was he got? Adam Boner? I think he's gone to the 76.
Damn, yeah,
Them,
yeah.
yeah. That he was like 6'10", a young lad. He'd kind of, he was trying out the product, and I remember he really enjoyed it. And the athletes around him saw him enjoying it. And I think, as you've said, you win the locker room, you win the key individuals, and all of a sudden it's an easier sell. So I remember how hard you found it, just for other reasons to bring the product in, but clearly
hmm
that situation probably helped, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA has its own like laundry list of issues with just red tape in general, just because of the magnifying glass on the institution. But once we were able to get the product through a serious back channel way of thinking, but we got it. It was definitely every strength coach, every athletic trainer, physio knows this. Like to win the locker room, you either have to go through the most outspoken person or whoever the team leader is, or the kind of the vet, right? It's going to be like one of those three people because you can have like the silent team leaders that don't aren't as spoken. You have the old vets that have been there for now forever because they refuse to leave college because they're getting paid more than all of us combined. And then you have like that young, uh, just say like a freshman or sophomore that is going to go pro. And it's like if I can get one of those three benefit if you get all three to start doing like these small little things. It's like a wildfire, man. It goes so fast across the team because they just say like, "What is that? Like, can I start doing that?" It's just simple. You're sitting on the sideline, you're like, "Yeah, he's got a little ankle pain or a little knee pain," and it goes away after that. He's like, "Oh, I want to try that," and it just goes like that. It's so fast to win the locker room if you can attack it from that manner because all the young guys, everyone else on the team, they see it and they're like, um, it's just a different response hearing it from their peer versus like having us or a coach come in and be like, you need to wear these for XYZ. And, it's like them going to class, you got to go to history and listen to XYZ. Like they don't listen to that shit, So like it's so easy for them to like see their peers do it and then obviously feel better from it. And then, yeah, that's just a easy way to kind of win that locker room and you can get anything done once you have that going for sure.
Have any of you guys ever had a situation where you've had like a sponsorship deal that's nothing to do with you? It's just kind of the powers that be in finance, and you have to use a product or be seen to be using it, but people don't buy into it. Like, and perhaps don't mention companies, but has anyone experienced that? And what do you do in that situation?
The entire time I was in the NBA, there was a big brand that kind of ran the minor league teams that I didn't necessarily get along with what they were the products that they were pushing due to the certain things that were in the product. We'll just call it like that. But like, at the end of the day, there's sometimes where you just have to, drink the Kool-Aid and, just you got to do what you got to do based on
Is that the
who you work
product?
for. No, that was not the product. There's a lot of the same ingredients, and it tastes very, very much like it. But it's like, you just gotta, take it on the chin and be like, we got to use it in some facet. And it is what it is. That's for sure. Like when there's more money at play like that, it's kind of out of everyone's hands.
Hmm. I'm just really enjoying having conversations with more and more teams because the buy-in's authentic and genuine, and it's such an easier place to be. And then you see another big company coming in and trying to throw a load of money at the situation, but the performance coach is going back to finance saying, "No, we want this product because it authentically and genuinely helps us." And it's so
hmm
cool to watch it unfold. But it must be difficult for you as coaches when you're in that position. Is kind of, I guess, the undercurrent of what I'm asking. Tom, you probably had that with GB, right?
I was just, I was thinking about actually just sometimes how difficult it is to get certain partnerships over the line because sometimes we're in, well, certainly this was my scenario with various products where you're like, I'm going to use my budget for this anyway because I'm that confident it's going to help us. But we could also maybe save some of this money by actually partnering with, strategic performance partners. And sometimes it's almost you'd almost prefer to go, yeah, I'm sorry, we love your product, we're going to celebrate you in as many ways as we can, but we're not going to do a formal partnership because actually the the speed to entry and rollout can be so quick. And you can kind of end up losing the performance bump, because then by the time you're in a place where your bigger operation can kind of steam into motion, like every other team around the world has already taken up that technology or something. Um, so sometimes you almost prefer to not do a partnership, just pay for things. I'm sure lots of people will be yeah, familiar with that as well. I mean, when they're going to be long-term plays, and they're partnerships that hopefully like you'll continue working with that organization as they go through Genesis as well. Like those are the great partnerships to kind of do now, I think.
I ran into that hurdle a lot when I was at UCLA. Everybody, like obviously everybody wants UCLA logo on their product saying that they're using it. And but the process of getting that partnership accomplished is next to impossible. And it's like at this point, it's like I'd rather just pay you guys for the product and start using it than I would go through this 3 year long process that is at the end of the day, it's like, is it even worth it at that point? I guess it's just been paying you guys and had our guys getting better in the process.
I think that's something we all, I think those that might be considered successful in our fields is, in any of our curriculums, regardless of the pathway of how we got here, they never taught us probably management, business management. They never taught us sales. And the bulk of what we might do, whether it be, kitsch terms like technical and tactical, is that there is a lot of that. The business is understanding the business, understanding the windows of business is like if you wanted to introduce a new piece of technology and you're 1 week away from the season ending, you can forget it because no one cares anymore. So you have to really understand the window of the year, what's coming. You probably need to do a better job of forecasting the potential needs that you're going to have for the next year. So it's on their radar and they'll understand that good or bad, however the season ended, they want it to be good the next year too. So you have to really do a job of like forecasting and then selling it. We have to sell ourselves. We have to sell our methodology. We have to sell our equipment to the athletes, to the parents, to the agents, to the coaches, to the administrators, to the doctors. Because much respect to orthopedic surgeons, but a lot of times is they're not necessarily prescribing individual things that you need to do. They just want outcomes. They want range of motion. They want strength. They want it in as close to a timeline. Obviously, we don't want to rehab is not timeline based, Tyler. Um, it's did they achieve the things that you need them to achieve? Everybody's different. So there is a lot that goes into it. And I think, the younger generation in our fields don't really know that yet. And they haven't learned that. And hopefully they learn it. But it's important. So we have to do those things for this. So then throw that in with a group that might want to come in and advertise. They want to give you product. They want to do this. They want to do that. You have to be able to like look at that and look at the benefit. And then sell it or don't sell it. You just have to be careful, cautious. What is the underlying motivation from the individual or their whatever. So you have to be careful and cautious, but you still have to work it to where you're able to use what you feel is best for your student athletes or the closest to that. And then they continue to get the benefit because it is complex. And it's not getting any less complicated, especially with the influx of social media and how that really runs everything now. It's the products that we not only use, but the products that we have to unsell to the athletes because an athlete might come to us saying, "Hey, I saw this guy using this thing. It is the best thing ever, and let's do it." And it's some contraption that doesn't have any evidence behind it. It's silly, in its use and application, and they're not going to see a benefit. But we can't just say, "Hey, that's crazy. We're not going to do it," because then you hurt that guy's feelings, or his agent's the one that didn't create it. I don't know, but so you have to just be careful and cautious how you go about those conversations to still be able to accomplish what you want to do. So it's not easy. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine I've been through it a little bit myself working in sports a few years back, but not to your levels in management positions, mind. And what I've loved on this journey as well is just the peer-to-peer kind of discussions and like Tyler, you introduced me to Dave. Immediately we hit it off
Mhm.
and immediately same kind of moral compass and we had the same viewpoints and stance on performance as you do as well, and the same with Tom. And it's just great that having your advocacy means when you speak to someone, I know for a fact they're going to borrow trust from you for Hydro and want to speak to us because you've already done the vetting, right? So, yeah, I just want to say I'm really, really thankful to all of you for coming on today. I didn't get to a few questions because we've had such a good discussion, so and I don't want to keep you much longer. But guys, that has been a phenomenal chat. I really, really appreciate you all, and yeah, I hope we can do something together again soon.